Hello, this is Sincere of Sincere's channel, and welcome once again. In this video, I want to share a traditional Turkish handicraft. I have mentioned in previous videos that I have been both a tourist and English teacher in Turkey within the period of 2003 to 2016, and to this very day, I continue to teach Turkish people English online. All societies have cultural symbols and traditions, but some more so than others. Societies that have the most often have long and complex histories. Turkey, which is a mixture of both East and West, has a number of cultural icons coming from its own rich history and influences from the Middle East, the Balkans, and Mediterranean cultures. Before I talk about a Turkish handicraft, I want to mention a few very common cultural traditions in the country. Now, if you go to Turkey, one of the first customs of daily life that you will likely be greeted with is a glass of black Turkish tea. Tea, or the Turkish name chai, is grown in the Black Sea region of the country. Turkey ranks number 1 in the world in tea consumption. Turkish tea will be served to you not in a teacup, but in a small tulip-shaped glass, sitting on a saucer with a small spoon, and a couple of sugar cubes can be added if you so desire. Whether in public spaces such as restaurants or the canteens of schools or university, tea is free in Turkey. Turkey produces handmade carpets called kilums, made in cotton, wool, and silk. The carpet factories are often found in the tourist routes. You might also see on a tour bus or in a taxi the Turkish amulet called the Nazir Boncu, dangling from the rearview mirror to ward off the evil eye or bad energies. Turkish ceramics or pottery have been famous for centuries. The town of Iznik on the Anatolian side of Turkey was a famous center of ceramic production and design from the 15th to the late 17th century. In Turkey, you will likely see portraits of this man in offices and schools, his image portrayed in statues where he is standing or on horseback, and even under Turkish lira, the currency of Turkey. He is Mustafa Kemal Atatürk, the founder and first president of the Turkish Republic. His surname, Atatürk, means father of the Turks. Beautiful and durable wool and silk scarves are made in Turkey. Lokum, or what is called in English Turkish delight, is a traditional sweet. Lokum comes in flavors such as hazelnut and rose water. The whirling dervishes of the city of Konya and the poetic Sufi spirit of Mevlana, or as he is called in the West, Rumi, and also the poetry of Yunus Emre is still remembered and revered in Turkey. Beautiful Ottoman-era mosques cover the Turkish landscape. The traditional architecture of Mimar Sinan, the great Ottoman-era architect, is still seen around the country, especially in the West. The fairy chimneys of Cappadocia attract tourists from around the world. The region of Cappadocia, or as the Turks say, Cappadocia, has a strong historical connection to the early church and was the birthplace of several great Christian theologians. So now let's explore Patik. All right, as I mentioned before, Turkey has a number of cultural symbols or icons, and these are one of them. Now, this may be a little bit lesser known if you're just a tourist or you don't have a sort of long history going to Turkey, but these are called Patik. Okay, Patik, P-A-T-I-K. And I'm going to put a link in the description giving you a little bit more of the history of Patik, if you're interested in reading about that. But I'm just going to talk about them briefly. Now, these Patik, what they are like little socks or booties. They're very thick. They're handmade. Some of them are like crocheted. This one looks like it's been knitted. These were actually gifts from colleagues, friends, and also employers. So I have a number of pair, and I don't even remember who gave me all of these except for one pair. Okay. Now, so I'm going to show them to you. Here's a pair right here I was given way back. I don't even remember who gave it to me and at which school I was teaching at the time. But you see the little design, the green and the colors. These colors are really nice. They're vivid, and you can see how they're made. They're just short, like little booties. They're like this, little short booties like this. And these are really good because in Turkey, the winters, particularly if you live more inland, away from the Mediterranean areas, the temperatures get very, very cold. Snow. I was living in Eskişehir, which was more going towards central Anatolia, north central Anatolia, and it was very cold in Eskişehir. There was a lot of snow over about within a week's time, and the coldest place in Turkey is actually Erzurum, which is in northeastern Turkey, going toward the country of Georgia, towards Armenia. Erzurum is really, really cold. So these are excellent for wear inside, because this is the thing about the culture in Turkey. They do not go inside and wear shoes. Okay, they don't wear shoes inside. What they do is they wear slippers, so you have to take your shoes off at the door, or they take their shoes off at the door. And say if you're a guest, you just leave the shoes outside. If they have a number of guests, they just leave the shoes outside of the door. Now, if you come inside, it's not so many people. Turkish people will usually have a shoe rack right when you come inside of the door. And you can put your shoes there and maybe take a pair of slippers. And so I haven't seen Patik there, okay, but they will have slippers. So when I was there the last time, I was living in rental property owned by my boss's sister-in-law, and so there was a rack, and everything was already furnished. So there was a rack there, a shoe rack, and I would put my shoes there, and I have my slippers, or I put socks on and walk around. But I didn't walk around with my shoes on. I just, even though it was just me living alone there, I still respected the property, and I didn't walk with my shoes on inside. So Turkish people, they don't want you, walking inside. It's to keep the floors clean, not tracking dirt on their carpets and things like that. So here's another pair of Patik. You can see like the little fleur-de-lis design, like the little French sign, like the little fleur-de-lis. Now, Patik has a very long history in what is now Turkey. It goes back to before the Anatolian peninsula was even called Turkey, before the Turks even came. I mean, it goes thousands of years even before the Turks took over the peninsula. They started arriving in about the 1200s. And then later they took over the entire peninsula by 1453. So going back to the 7th century BC, Patik was made by women in that area. It wasn't called Patik there, but they were just these little warm type handmade booties were made by women in the region. Also, they may have gone back as far as ancient Egypt and Mesopotamia. Now, Mesopotamia is not only in Iraq, but it's also in part of the region is also in eastern Turkey. So if you go to cities like Mardin or Sanliurfa, or Urfa for short, these cities are actually in Mesopotamia. So part of Mesopotamia, historic Mesopotamia, where the land between the two rivers and where civilization began, actually part of it is also in Turkey. So let's look at some more here I have. This is another pair. I love the black background and the little stitching at the top. And I'm a big lover. I love the blue and the lavender color, pink This is so nice. It's probably the only pair I can get my feet in because it's the biggest. Okay. And this pair, actually, this was also interesting. It sort of reminds me of like, the stitching or the patterns that you have, like with the Scandinavian type sweaters that people wear, the Norwegian and Swedish sweaters that people wear in the wintertime. And you see the little opening there. And then last but not least is this pair that was given to me by my last boss's wife. Okay. She was basically my boss too, because he was only there on the weekends because he taught, he was a professor in Cyprus, and he would fly home on like Thursday night, and he would only be at the school on the weekends. And she was a professor, at a university in the city I was staying in Eskişehir. And, so she was basically my boss as well, because she would come there 5 days a week, and then he would be there on the weekends. And then she would come sometimes, but usually she would let him take over the school on the weekends, because it was he owned it. And and they both were university professors. But yeah, if you look at this pair, it's quite unique, different from the others. The others were all nice, but this one has beading. Okay. And what Patik is, it's a symbol of hospitality in Turkey. It's given to friends, neighbors, brides. So it's a symbol, a cultural symbol of warmth and hospitality. And so, so this is my little collection of Patik. Okay. Quite nice. When Turkish friends and students and colleagues gave me this, they didn't give me the history. I don't know why. They just handed it to me. Here's the gift. And they didn't explain to me, what the history is. So I had to do my own due diligence and find out exactly what is the origin of these socks. Is it, does it have any meaning? Obviously it has meaning. These are, handmade. And so it has a lot of cultural significance, and it basically goes back to ancient times, even long before the Turks. The Turks just integrated it into their culture when they took over the region. All right, so I'm going to end here. So I hope you enjoyed this video and learned something new. So this is Sincere. Until next time.